now, Julie. I put a bag in her head.
Just said that live.
You are live now?
Yeah, we're live.
Oh, that's not the worst thing I've ever been accused of.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call the city council meeting to order. It's April 13th, 7 o'clock with via Zoom. First, we'll have the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I have the flag here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I don't see Pastor McLeod. Is she not on, Julie?
No, I do not see her on, so.
Well, join me in a moment of silence then, okay? Okay, next roll call council members.
Ms. Alt,
Here.
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes.
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Dr. Fellner,
Here.
Mr. Ivy,
Here.
Mr. Richard,
Here.
Mr. Triplett. Where'd Mr. Triplett go?
Present.
Why are you dark? There you go.
I don't know this thing.
Be noted that all 7 council members are present. Next, roll call of elected safety service director.
All right, Mayor O'Leary.
Here.
Auditor Baldinger,
Here.
Director of Law Palmer,
Here.
Treasurer Sparks, Safety Service Director Ward.
Here.
Okay. We've all had a chance to read the minutes of the March 23rd regular meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? If not, do I hear a motion to approve them?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 23rd regular meeting.
Mr. Richard made the motion, seconded by Mr. Ivy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Motion carried. Minutes approved. Okay, we have 2 that we have to add to the agenda tonight. It's ordinance 2021-30. Do I have a motion to add that ordinance to the agenda?
Mr.
I'll make a
President,
motion to add ordinance 2021-30 to the agenda.
Dr. Fellner made the motion, seconded by
I'll second.
Mr. Richard, seconded. Roll call.
Ms. Alt,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes.
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Triplett.
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-30 has been added to the agenda by a 7-0 vote. Next is ordinance 2021-31. I have a motion to add that to the agenda.
I'll make a motion to add ordinance 2021-31 to the agenda.
Here's the motion by Dr. Fellner. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Mrs. Earlston seconded it. Roll call.
Ms. Alt,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins.
Yes.
Oh, I got somebody coming on. Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Triplett.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2021-31 has been added to the agenda by a 7-0 vote. Now I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Dr. Fellner made the motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ivy. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, likewise. The agenda has been approved as amended. Moving on to legislation, is ordinance 2021-29. It's the first reading.
Ordinance number 2021-29 entitled ordinance authorizing the safety service director to advertise for bids and to enter into contract with the lowest and best bidder, therefore, as provided by law for runway 5/23 renovations at the airport to proceed, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Okay, you've heard the reading of the ordinance. Discussion.
Yes, this came through Economic Development and Airport. I think the summary is pretty self-explanatory, but I'd like to ask Ms. Ward to please elaborate a little bit.
Thanks, Dr. Fellner. This is just authorization to bid the project that you've already approved legislation to apply for the grant and also for the engineering. So this is just so we can go ahead and take the next step in the process.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and proceed to the final reading on ordinance 2021-29. And so we could get this project bid and completed.
You've heard the motion by Dr. Fellner, seconded by Mr. Botkins. Discussion?
Roll call.
No, roll call.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Botkins,
Yes,
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
yes,
Mr. Triplett,
Yes.
Ms. Alt.
Yes.
Motion to suspend the rules on ordinance 2021-29 is passed by a 7-0 vote. Now discussion on the ordinance.
I'd like to make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-29.
You've heard the motion by Mr. Triplett, second by
Second.
Mr. Ivy. Discussion and roll call.
Mr. Triplett,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
yes,
Ms. Alt,
Yes.
Mr. Botkins,
yes,
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Dr. Fellner.
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-29 is passed by a 7-0 vote. Moving on to ordinance 2021-30, first reading.
Ordinance number 2021-30, entitled Ordinance Approving Decisions of the City of Gallion Treasury Investment Board and declaring an emergency.
Okay, discussion on this ordinance.
Yeah, Carl. The Treasury Investment Board met again on some investments that are coming due. We met on March the 29th and made a motion as recommended by Vacara from Meter Investments. The investment was for $245,950.80, and it matured on March the 31st, 2021. Then we had tabled a second investment for further discussion after we gathered some more information. They re-met on April 5th of 2021 and to discuss reinvestment of another one coming to another maturing on April the 9th, 2021. The balance on that was $643,457.73. Both of these investments were unanimously approved for Nick to reinvest these monies. And it has to be brought to for a final approval from council to complete this. And we're asking for pass this as an emergency because of it's being done after the fact. And we have one more, I believe, coming due in December, and we're going to try and get out in front of this one and get an approval before the maturity date instead of after the fact. Other than that, that's all I have.
How long were they renewed for?
Let me get the minutes up here. The
5 years.
5 years. Was both of them 5 years?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, they both were renewed for 5 years. Thanks,
Yeah.
man.
Eunice, go ahead.
I just want to clarify the figures that Gail read. Those were balances in January. The actual balances of the reinvestment, just to clarify, will vary by the market at the time that they actually reinvest.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Questions?
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and proceed to the final reading on ordinance 2021-30.
You've heard the motion to suspend the rules on this ordinance by Dr. Fellner, second by Mr. Bodkins. Roll call.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes.
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Triplett,
Yes.
Ms. Alt.
She's
Okay. It's passed by 7-0 vote. Discussion on the ordinance itself.
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-30.
Heard the motion by Mr. Triplett. Do we have a second?
And I'll second that.
Mr. Richards seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Triplett,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Ms. Alt,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes.
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy.
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-30 is passed by 7-0 vote. Moving on to ordinance 2021-31. It's the first reading also.
Ordinance number 2021-31 entitled ordinance approving a compliance officer pursuant to Article 1, Section 4 of the City of Gallion credit card policy and declaring an emergency.
Heard the reading of the ordinance. Discussion.
Yeah, Carl.
Yes.
Our office has been actively working on getting this set up, and it's time to get a fiscal officer in place, which is appointed by council. This is kind of self-explanatory, and that's what this ordinance is about, is selecting a compliance officer.
Thank
That's all
you.
I have. Do you have anything else, Eunice?
No, I do not.
Okay. Further
And just so
discussion.
people know, this is selecting the safety service director. That's, yeah, so,
Okay.
Or whoever council wishes.
well, that's what this ordinance selects the safety service director. That's what it's doing. Yeah,
Yeah, but I don't think they ever been officially nominated. I think that was just brought up in discussion.
well, we've
So
already
they
passed the
have to-
credit card policy. This is appointing her as that's what this ordinance does, is appoints the safety service director as the compliance officer.
What Gail's trying to say is as council selects the compliance officer, and it was just suggested and recommended that it be the service safety director.
I'm just telling them that's what's in their legislation.
Yeah, we know what's in the legislation.
Yeah, I know. I was just letting the people watching know that since we didn't say.
Yeah, but it is council's choice who they may want to put in there for a compliance officer.
Well, if council is going to choose someone other than the safety service director, they're going to have to amend what
This
they have
ordinance.
before them.
That's correct. Thanks,
Or
Thomas.
vote it down.
Yeah, or vote it
Correct,
down.
Mayor. Yep, yep.
I would just like to add that I think that given the parameters of the safety service director and the general operation of the city, she is probably, or in this case, it's a she, could be a he in the future. It makes very good sense to have that person in that position to oversee this.
Thank you.
I would love to see it voted down for Nikki's sake, but I'm glad she's stepping up to do this job. And with that in mind, I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and go to the final reading on ordinance 2021-31.
You've heard the motion by Dr. Fellner to suspend the rules on this ordinance. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Richards seconded. And roll call.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Triplett. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Ms. Alton,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes.
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy.
Yes.
Okay, the motion to suspend the rules on ordinance 2021-31 is passed by 7-0 vote. Discussion on the ordinance.
Mr. President, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-31.
Heard the motion by Mr. Richards. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bodkin seconded it. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes.
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Triplett,
yes,
Ms. Alt.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2021-31 is passed by 7-0 vote. Moving on to ordinance 2021-32, first reading.
Ordinance number 2021-32 entitled ordinance authorizing the safety service director to advertise for bids and to enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder, therefore, as provided by law for various street paving improvements, authorizing payment therefore, and declaring an emergency.
Heard the reading of the ordinance, discussion.
Hey, Mr. President, before Ken makes any comments, this did come through the Streets Committee. But I believe that we would be well served to amend the ordinance in two ways. So please consider this: reducing the amount from that 449 to 425, 200, and deleting everything after street improvement funds. In other words, deleting those four words and the recreation fund.
Okay,
Quickest explanation, if you'll indulge me for a second. The logic at the meeting, I think it's sound, is that in this proposal, we're going to do Walnut and Pounder, both adjacent to this parking lot at East Park. Makes sense that you could probably get good bids. The rather large fly in the ointment that I'll own, I didn't check, is that 204 doesn't have, that'd be the recreation fund, doesn't have a sufficient appropriation to fund that. So what I'd like to have council do is delete that. We can go ahead with the street paving, and then as early as tomorrow, actually, at Aaron's committee, we'll be talking about a Freeze Foundation program, if you will. And I think it's likely that that same East Park paving would be included in the, in that allocation. So if somebody would make a motion to delete those, then I think it, and then I would also say that if we could get this passed tonight, it'll get it to market, a couple weeks sooner than if we had to wait till a second reading. So, thank you.
thank you. Okay. Further
What was
discussion?
the dollar amount again?
It's 425, 200.
I'd like to make a motion to amend section 2 to read $425,200 and to delete the phrase "and the recreation fund."
Heard the motion to suspend the rules or to amend this ordinance by Dr. Fellner. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Richards seconded. Discussion? Roll call. Oh, was there somebody?
Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, roll call.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Triplett,
yes,
Ms. Alt,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes.
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy.
Yes.
Okay, it passed by 7-0 vote. Back to the discussion on the ordinance.
I have a question, Mr. President.
Yes, go ahead.
Is the logic behind this reduction in the cost is to request freeze money to pave the actual Splash Park parking lot?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Other discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and proceed to the final reading on ordinance 2021-32 as amended.
I'll
Heard the-
second.
Dr. Fellner, second by Mr. Ivy, suspend the rules on this ordinance. Roll call.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Triplett,
yes,
Ms. Alt,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes,
Ms. Earlston.
Yes.
Okay, passed by 7-0 vote. Now, back to discussion on the ordinance itself.
I'd like to make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-32 as amended.
You've heard the motion by Mr. Triplett. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Bodkins. Discussion?
Mr. O'Leary, in utilities, we talked about a small sewer project prior to paving on Gleddale. Is that still on, or is that not
Yes.
part of? Okay.
Yeah, I think that the way that'll be handled is those materials are in order. Nikki can probably, I believe that there's been a contract signed with the local contractor,
Okay.
and that'll proceed ahead of this.
Thank you.
Other discussion? If none, roll call.
Mr. Triplett,
Yes,
Mr. Bodkins,
yes,
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Ms. Alt.
Yes.
The ordinance 2021-32 is passed by 7-0 vote. Moving on to other business, preliminary alley vacation at 905 South Market Street for discussion. Julie?
Okay, I see Eric is on, which is good. And just to let you know, for people that are new, because we don't always do these, what the process is people normally they would apply, they have a form they fill out if both people on all sides of the alley are in agreement. We've got those forms, but then the people are supposed to pay to have a survey done because the alley gets split between the people on either side. And so the survey can be filed, so how the new lot lines are going to be. But, there's some cost in that. And I know some alleys, they want the people petition are not good candidates, I would say, maybe to be vacated in some instances. And so we've gotten to this process where we kind of give a preliminary, whether we're going to a yay or nay kind of thing before the people spend all that money to get a survey and then have council say, nope, we're not interested. So this is a process we kind of started doing. And then Eric can probably explain this alley. I did send a picture out in your packets so you could kind of see where it was there on between 905 and 907, I think, South Market.
Is it 905 and 909?
909, it might be 909. It could be, yeah, it could be.
Okay.
Probably, yep, sorry.
Okay, because I didn't know if I was missing something. Okay.
Oh,
thank-
you're right, I think, yes. Yeah, my bad. So I just
Thanks.
didn't realize they skipped a number there. Probably that lot that's there that nobody's on, so,
Yeah, I'm sure.
yeah.
Eric, do you have anything?
Yes, what Julie said, when it went through the committee, Mr. Bodkins had asked a question about, because the lot to the south of the alley now is a vacant lot and it's owned by the same people in 909. So right now they own both lots, but that lot is a buildable lot. It does have the square footage and enough road frontage. That was just a question that he had. So, down the road, I still don't see it ever becoming a problem because they have enough room to put a driveway in if they were to build another house on that vacant lot, eventually. But that would be the only problem is that I could potentially see down the road. But there's no utilities. We checked all that out. So the back part of the alley, there used to be a north-south alley back through there that was dedicated, and they've already vacated that years and years ago. So there's no access to the railroad already without going through those people's property. But But that was a question that I told Mr. Botkins I'd have the answer for tonight, when it came to full council, is if that was a buildable lot. And it is. So other than that, that's all I've got.
Other questions?
Eric, is so I'm assuming the this is essentially a shut off alley. It doesn't go anywhere. It's dead end.
That is correct, Mike. Years ago, there used to be a store there. And those alleys, what everybody believes, and from the mayor and other people that I've talked to, is they used to use that, trucks used to deliver to the store through those alleys years and years ago. And then they just, vacated that back one. And now this one, the 905 residents are currently using it as their driveway. The city doesn't maintain it. It doesn't even look like an alley. It literally just goes in and then curves down to their garage. So, they would have to work out a deal if it does get split when they do their survey. He's going to want to have a recorded easement or whatever, so he can continue to use it as a driveway, or move his driveway to the north to keep it on his half. But that would be all things they would work out and they would pay for through their the lot split, and the easement would all get recorded that way.
Thank you.
Hearing all this, does anybody have any objections to this proposed deal?
I don't have any, no.
None?
No.
Well, we can have the owner then prepare what he needs. He can go ahead and incur his expenses, and then we'll probably see this in a month or so. Because we are legally required to have a public hearing, so we will do that in the future. But at least they probably, won't have, wasted expense. So.
Okay. And then moving on, other business, Mr. Ivy, you have a meeting tomorrow night?
Yes, sir, I do.
7 o'clock?
Yes, on Zoom.
Okay. Other council members, Mr. Botkins?
Yes, I would like to direct some of this to Mr. Palmer and maybe Mr. Baldinger. I had a call today from a man, and he lives at 850 South Market. And there's a dispute over an alley entrance, and if they close the driveway off, he has no way to get to the back of his house, and the house next door is vacant. But I'd like to meet with Mr. Baldinger, and maybe Mr. Palmer could offer some legal advice on this, if you can actually keep a person from actually using their drive to get to the back of their home. And
Yeah,
their
happy to look into it, Ken.
pardon?
Okay.
Happy to look into it, help you out.
I sure appreciate that.
Yep.
So
They're 19, the house is empty next door, so, and it's pretty bad looking. So he just needs a little help, and I thank you very much.
the
But if-
situation with that was, I was down there the Thursday before Good Friday is when we was down there, so it'd be April 1st.
Can we talk about it a little bit so I understand what's going on?
So we were down there with the police. Richard Horning owns the house to the south. He's going to start working on it. It was his grandmother's house. He sees how the values of the houses are now, so he wants to start working on it, and he wants to try to get it sold.
Okay.
And it was a verbal agreement for years of a parent, and it's right in the appraisal for 850 South Market. It's right in their appraisal that it's an apparent joint used driveway. However, they do have room to put their own driveway in, is exactly what it says in their appraisal. There's no easements recorded, nothing. So Richard Horning's property, the majority of the driveway, all but approximately 3-4 feet of it, is on Mr. Horning's property. And he wants to put a vinyl fence down there because their neighbors aren't getting along for whatever reason. Not, you know what I mean? Not getting involved in none of that. So, but the bottom line is I can't stop him from putting a fence on his property when there's no easement. So on Harding Way, on that place where he built his building, He's got a very similar situation there, but there is a 10-foot recorded easement on that property. So he's putting his vinyl fence up. It's like a split rail. It meets all of our requirements for the front yard. It's, 42 inches tall. But obviously he has to allow them that 10-foot easement because there's a recorded easement. And he's the one, he provided me with all that information, not the owner of the other house. So it's,
The only thing I was wondering about, they can't work this out, I take it.
I don't think so. When we was down there, it was a pretty heated discussion.
Yeah.
And the Mr. Bell that lives in the 850 he wasn't far from getting arrested because he was really being pretty mouthy and aggressive towards the cops. And
Yeah.
it wasn't
Not
It's
really.
something like that can't be.
warned for disorderly conduct. He was definitely being belligerent about things. So, but that's the situation, what's going on. Like I said, legally, it's not his property. Mr. Horning's not bringing anything into the right of way. Everything's staying on his property, just as anybody else in the city can do on their property. So,
Well, it doesn't look like it would hurt to share the drive, but that's a personal opinion. Okay, that's not the legal side. I just can't see why they can't work it out. That's all.
I agree completely, sir.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry you had to be there.
Oh, that's all right.
Any other meetings coming up we'd like to mention? Mrs. Earlston.
I have a meeting this Thursday for the Police, Fire and Health Committee.
Okay,
Economic Development and Airport, Tuesday, the 20th, and Finance, Wednesday, the 21st.
okay. That takes care of them for this month, does it? Anybody else have any discussion want to bring up at this point? If none, moving on to Auditor Baldinger.
Yeah, I have a couple small things that I would like to report to council. I'm finalizing bids for the chemical bids that were opened up earlier or late last month. I think it was like the 29th of March or something like that. Director Lowell Palmer has already reviewed the language and signed off on them. They got returned to my office late yesterday, and I sat there and worked most of the day on them, going through them and trying to check and make sure the numbers are okay. And I should be finalizing those tomorrow and getting those back to Natasha and Nikki so they can get the rest of the signatures. Those bids need to be done by April 30th. So we'll be, hopefully I'll finalize those tomorrow. And the other thing is we're doing a drawdown on from OPWC or loan for the phase 3 sewer project. It's the one we were talking about here earlier about South Street being closed. And that's why it's closed. We got that sewer work going on down there, and we're finalizing a draw on that loan of the amount of $105,000 for I think that was construction, and we got 30-some thousand, I believe, for engineering. But I just pulling them numbers off the top of my head right now. I didn't bring them home with me, so I just got that today, and I'll be starting to work on that tomorrow and get that finalized either tomorrow or Thursday. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Treasurer Sparks, I don't believe he's on, is he, Julian?
No, I saw a number on there, but that number's gone now, so I don't know who it was.
Okay, Law Director Palmer,
Nothing tonight, Mr. President.
Mayor O'Leary.
We've got a handful of things. I'll try to move through them quickly. Finance can be prepared to, and we were going to talked about putting on the agenda tonight, but I don't think there's any real need in it. There is a need to make a request for additional OPWC funds. And what they're going to do is amend our existing agreement on the Portland Way project. I don't want to have a cavalcade of trumpets, but we worked, have for a few years, but we worked recently the last few months to try to do something to displace that state infrastructure bank loan that is part of the 21 budget. You know, it provided the financing so the project can proceed, but I think all of us that had worked on it thought there'd be a better way, a less expensive way to fund it. And so Public Works Commission had some extra money for loans. We pursued that and have been awarded $850,000, which was the amount that we were going to borrow from the SIB. So all that's good. Two things about it worth mentioning. One is that we believe that we'll be able to spread the term out over 20 years versus what looked like 10 through the SIB, and then certainly the interest rates. So if, you know, just a quick calculation, it's about $125,000 to $130,000 in saved interest. And the other part about it that I think is worth mentioning, that as we pay for that, the annual payment will be at least half or roughly half of what it would have been under the other setup. So in other words, we would have had $85,000 a year to pay on principal and about $20,000 to pay on interest. It's going to work out so that we'll be paying about $40,000, $42,000 annually just on the principal. So I think that's a good thing worth reporting. I think if you count that as outside money, which I would, that puts us at about $3.5 million of state or in this case, OPWC funds as a mix in that project. So we started out a few years ago without an engineering plan, and pretty pleased that we've got a lot more affordable way to pay for this, and in a way that won't crowd out other projects going forward. It's the first thing I wanted to mention. The second thing that will come up in Ken's committee later this month is a discussion about applying for some money for a left-hand turn lane at Brant Road and 598. So I talked with the committee one time, I think it was a month ago, about that before we got into the local paving. That is moving forward and will likely need some sort of authorization from council to apply for funds to the county's transportation improvement district. So just sort of a preview to the streets committee, that'll be coming, trying to get TID dollars, another acronym that can offset any other expense that we'll need to get that left-hand turn lane in. So those are two things to, I think, worth reporting on. And if Mr. President, you'll indulge me for one different topic. I do not want to see the discussion, I'm not sure it was forward movement or sideways movement the last few months, but I really want to continue to drive at some sort of answer on the Freeze Center. I think where it sits now is not satisfactory to anyone. It might be most satisfactory to people who aren't really interested in it. But I think just to have it drop in the Economic Development Airport Committee, not to be heard of again, I don't, those people who would like to have it never come up again, I wouldn't count on it. So I'm going to be back at the group on Tuesday, trying to get some sort of forward movement, some sort of discussion, some sort of direction about whether the city is going to back the Freeze Center in some form or fashion. So those are really the three items, a couple of roadway things, and this major topic, which got to a sort of a decision point, and by my reckoning, it's almost 2 months, will soon be 2 months that we've had to look at it, survey results come and gone, and yet we've offered no direction going forward. I don't think that's a satisfactory way to proceed on that. So those are the things I have. If there are any questions,
Anybody have any
to go
questions?
forward.
Anybody have any questions of the mayor tonight?
No.
If not, I don't have anything to bring up, so we have a motion to adjourn then.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Mr. Triplett made the motion, was seconded by Mrs. Earlston. All in favor, say aye.
Right.
Opposed likewise, meeting hereby adjourned at 7:41. Thank you. Good night.